The grand chamber of Galactic Council Station Omega-7 stretched nearly 2 kilometers in diameter. Its walls were made of transparent aluminum, offering a breathtaking view of the stars beyond. 47 different species had representatives sitting in the circular arrangement of seats, each delegation positioned according to their civilization's age and influence. The oldest races sat closest to the center, while the youngest occupied the outer rings. Humanity's delegation sat in the outermost ring. Commander Sarah Chen stood at the speaking platform, her hands clasped behind her back in a military stance that the other species found curious. Humans had only joined the Galactic Council 200 years ago, arriving in ships that barely qualified as faster-than-light capable. Their technology was primitive by galactic standards. Their understanding of cosmic politics was laughable. Yet here they were, requesting an audience to address a territorial dispute. The Valix delegation occupied seats in the third inner ring. They were ancient, powerful, and utterly confident. Their ambassador, Kreshtar, was a massive creature, standing nearly 3 meters tall. His scaled body gleamed under the chamber's lights, and his 4 eyes tracked Chen's every movement with barely concealed amusement. Chen cleared her throat and began, "Honorable council members, humanity formally protests the Valix Empire's annexation of the Kepler 442 system. Our colony ships were already en route when Valix forces occupied the 4th planet. We had filed proper settlement claims 6 months prior, according to council protocols." A ripple of quiet conversation spread through the chamber. Several species exchanged knowing glances. The more experienced diplomats had seen this scenario play out dozens of times before. Kreshtar rose from his seat, without waiting for permission to speak. The council's moderator, an ancient being, called a eldest from the theoretical species, made no move to stop him. Everyone knew the Valix did as they pleased. The human makes noise like a hatchling demanding food. Kreshtar's voice boomed through the translation systems. The Valix Empire has controlled that sector for 8,000 years. Your claim is meaningless. Your protocols are suggestions we choose not to follow. Chen's jaw tightened, but she maintained her composure. The council charter clearly states to its list. The charter, Kreshtar interrupted, moving down toward the speaking platform with deliberate, heavy steps, is a document written by species who understand strength. You humans do not understand. You arrived in the galaxy like children, playing with toys you call warships. You claim worlds as if you have the power to hold them. You speak of rights as if you have earned them. He reached the platform and towered over Chen, looking down at her with all 4 eyes. Let me educate you on galactic reality, human. The Valix Empire spans 400 star systems. We have conquered and pacified 23 species who thought themselves our equals. We have maintained order in our sectors for longer than your species has possessed written language. When we desire a world, it becomes ours. This is not cruelty. This is nature. Chen stood her ground, not backing away despite the massive alien looming over her. Ambassador Kreshtar, we are not asking for war. We are asking for justice, according to council law. Kreshtar's laugh sounded like grinding stone. Justice? Law? These are concepts for the weak to hide behind. The strong take what they desire. The weak accept what they are given. He turned away from Chen, addressing the full council. I propose we save the humans time and embarrassment. The Valix Empire will generously offer humanity a choice. Surrender 60% of your colony worlds to Valix administration. In exchange, we will allow you to keep the remaining 40% under our protection. The chamber erupted in shocked murmurs. 60% was an outrageous demand. Several species looked at the human delegation with pity. The theoretical eldest raised a limb for silence. Ambassador Kreshtar, the eldest's translated voice carried a note of concern. Such a demand is unprecedented for a territorial dispute. Perhaps a more measured approach after taxes, Aftermash. After taxes is not necessary, Kreshtar finished. The humans will accept, or they will face corrective action. We have given this choice to others before. All have chosen wisely. His eyes fixed on Chen again. 23 species, human 23, who challenged Valix supremacy. Can you name them? No? Because they no longer exist as independent civilizations. Some were integrated into our empire. Others were pacified so thoroughly that their children forget they ever had pride. Chen's hands clenched behind her back, but her voice remained steady. How long do we have to respond to this ultimatum? Chen's hands clenched permission. Chen's hands clenched behind. To this ultimatum? 30 standard days, Kreshtar said. More than generous. Use the time to prepare your surrender documents and evacuate whatever personnel you cannot support on 40% fewer worlds. He leaned closer. And human, do not think to seek allies among the Council. Every species here knows the cost of opposing the Valeks. They will offer you sympathy and nothing more. The Valeks ambassador returned to his delegation seats. The theoretical eldest looked at Chen with something resembling regret in its ancient features. Does the human delegation wish to respond? The eldest asked. Chen looked around the chamber. She saw pity in some faces, relief in others, that they were not the ones being threatened, and cold calculation in the rest. Not a single species met her eyes with anything resembling support. Humanity requests the full 30 days to consider the Valeks Empire's terms, Chen said formally. We will deliver our response at the scheduled time. As expected, Kreshtar's voice carried from his seat. Use your time wisely, human. Begin evacuations. Begin preparations. Accept the inevitable. The council session ended. As the various delegations filed out, several ambassadors approached Chen with quiet words of condolence. The Talari representative, a bird-like creature with iridescent feathers, stopped beside her. I am sorry, the Talari said softly. My people faced a similar choice 2,000 years ago. We gave the Valeks 38% of our worlds. It was painful, but we survived. There is no shame in accepting reality. How many ships did you have? Chen asked. The Talari looked confused. Ships? We had perhaps 300 warships at the time. Why? Just curious, Chen said. Thank you for your concern. As Chen walked back to the human delegation's quarters, her second-in-command, Captain Marcus Rivera, fell into step beside her. They think we're going to fold, Rivera said quietly. I know. They think we're terrified. I know. They have no idea what we've been building out past the frontier worlds. Chen allowed herself the smallest smile. I know. They reached their secure communication room. Chen sealed the door and activated the encryption systems. The holographic display flickered to life, showing Admiral James Kowalski, commander of humanity's frontier fleet. Commander Chen. Kowalski's image greeted her. I watched the council session. Quite the performance from our scaled friend. Admiral, we have 30 days, Chen said. Initiate protocol revelation. Kowalski's expression grew serious. Are you certain? Once we show our hand, there's no going back. They've given us no choice. The Valeks made this personal. They think we're weak. They think we're children playing at being a galactic civilization. Chen's voice hardened. It's time to stop playing. Understood. Protocol revelation is active. All frontier fleets are moving to assembly points. Industrial stations are running at maximum capacity. We'll be ready. The transmission ended. Rivera looked at Chen with concern. Commander, the Council has maintained peace for 12,000 years. If we do this, we're breaking that peace. No, Marcus, Chen said, looking out at the stars. The Valeks broke the peace the moment they threatened to erase our civilization. We're just going to finish what they started. Across the galaxy, humanity's machine began to move. On the frontier colony of New Harmony, what the Valeks thought were evacuation ships were actually military transports arriving. Thousands of them. Each one carried not refugees, but soldiers, equipment, weapons. The massive orbital stations that the Valeks intelligence had identified as civilian manufacturing centers activated hidden protocols. Their production lines shifted. Where they had been building farming equipment and mining drones, they now produced weapons of war. In the asteroid fields of the Ross 154 system, what appeared to be mining operations revealed their true purpose. Hollowed-out asteroids opened like flowers, and warships emerged. Not dozens, not hundreds, thousands of ships that had been constructed in absolute secrecy, hidden from every galactic sensor and spy satellite. On Earth itself, the military high command gathered in a bunker beneath the Swiss Alps. Fleet Admiral Chen, no relation to Sarah, though they shared the distinction of being from the same ancestral region of old Earth, addressed the assembled officers. "For 200 years, we have played the role the galaxy expected of us," she said. "We have been the newcomers, the primitives, the species that barely understands how things work. We have been laughed at, patronized, and dismissed. Today, that ends." She activated a display showing the Valix Empire's territory. The Valix have conquered 23 species. They believe this makes them invincible. They do not understand what those species could not teach them. "What's that, Admiral?" a young officer asked. "That humanity has been at war with itself for our entire history. We have refined the art of destruction through 10,000 years of practice. We have fought wars with sticks and stones. We have fought wars with nuclear weapons. We have fought wars in trenches, in skies, in the depths of oceans, and in the void of space. Every single human conflict taught us lessons that these ancient species never learned." She smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "The Valix think they are predators. They are about to learn what real predators look like." Back on Council Station Omega 7, the other species watched humanity's colony worlds with curiosity. Long-range sensors showed massive ship movements. Just as expected, the humans were evacuating, preparing to surrender their worlds to Valix control. The Talari ambassador reviewed the sensor data and felt sad for the humans. They had shown such promise, but like so many species before them, they would learn to accept their place in the galactic hierarchy. It was the way things had always been. The theoretical eldest, however, noticed something unusual in the data. The ships moving to human colonies were arriving, not departing, and the energy signatures were wrong for civilian vessels. The eldest pulled up deeper analysis and felt something it had not experienced in 3,000 years: uncertainty. In his personal chambers, Ambassador Kreshtar reviewed reports from Valix intelligence. Everything was proceeding as expected. Human ship movements indicated preparation for withdrawal. Their military forces were repositioning to defend their core worlds. Within 30 days, humanity would accept Valix terms, and another species would be added to the list of those who had challenged the Empire and learned humility. He poured himself a drink from his homeworld, a potent alcohol that would kill most species. As he savored it, he thought about how he would spend the resources from the new human colonies. Perhaps a new estate on Valix Prime. Perhaps a commission to write his memoirs as the ambassador who brought the humans to heal. He never considered that he might be making the last mistake of his species' proud history. The 30-day countdown had begun. Humanity's response was being prepared, but it would not be delivered in words. It would be delivered in steel, fire, and a demonstration of industrial warfare at a scale the galaxy had never witnessed. The Valix had issued an ultimatum expecting submission. What they would receive instead was an education in what happens when you threaten a species that has spent its entire existence perfecting the art of war. The galaxy had maintained peace for 12,000 years. That peace was about to end. And in the aftermath, every species would learn a new rule, written in the ashes of Valix pride: never threaten humanity. The 30 days passed in a strange atmosphere of galactic anticipation. Council species monitored the situation with the morbid curiosity of spectators watching a tragedy unfold. Diplomatic channels buzzed with speculation about how humanity would word their surrender. The Valix Empire, confident in their impending victory, had already drawn up administrative plans for their new human territories. Commander Sarah Chen stood once again in the council chamber. The date for humanity's formal response had arrived. Every delegation was present, many having come specifically to witness this moment. The theoretical eldest presided over the session, with its usual ancient dignity. Ambassador Kreshtar sat in his delegation seats, radiating satisfaction. He had allowed the humans the full 30 days, demonstrating Valix generosity. Now they would accept their place in the natural order. The council recognizes Commander Sarah Chen of the human delegation, the eldest announced. The 30 standard days have elapsed. Humanity's response to the Valix Empire's terms is requested. VP, Crescio, was. Chen walked to the speaking platform carrying a single data pad. The chamber fell completely silent. Every eye, sensor, and recording device focused on her. She placed the datapad on the platform and looked directly at Kreshtar. Ambassador Kreshtar, the Valix Empire demanded that humanity surrender 60% of our colony worlds. You gave us 30 days to prepare our acceptance. Kreshtar nodded, his scaled face showing approval. A wise decision, human. Your submission documents are in order? We have no submission documents, Chen said calmly. Confusion rippled through Kreshtar's expression. Then you require more time? This is acceptable. We can grant another no, Chen interrupted. We do not require more time. We have prepared our response. It is complete. She picked up the datapad and displayed it on the chamber's main screen. On it was a single word in multiple languages, including Valix. No. The chamber erupted. Species began talking over each other. The theoretical eldest tried to restore order. Kreshtar rose from his seat, his 4 eyes wide with disbelief. What is this? Kreshtar's voice thundered through the translation systems. What game do you play, human? No game, Chen said. You offered us a choice. Surrender 60% of our worlds or face corrective action. We choose corrective action. We choose war. The chamber fell silent again. But this time, the silence was one of shock. Several species looked at each other in horror. The Talari ambassador's feathers paled. Others sat frozen in their seats. Kreshtar stared at Chen, as if she had spoken in a language beyond translation. Yes, you understand what this means? You understand what we will do to your species? Ma, we understand, Chen said. Do you? Kreshtar's shock transformed into rage. Foolish child. Your species numbers less than 50 billion across all your worlds. The Valix Empire has stood for 8,000 years. Our military has crushed civilizations that existed before your ancestors learned to make fire. I'm aware of your history, Chen said. Then you are insane, Kreshtar roared. I retract our generous offer. There will be no terms, no compromise. The Valix Empire declares a state of war against humanity. We will demonstrate to the galaxy what happens to those who refuse our mercy. He turned to address the council. Let this stand as example to all. The Valix Empire will prosecute this war until humanity begs for the opportunity to surrender. And when they do, we will show them no compassion. The theoretical eldest raised a limb. Ambassador Kreshtar, the council has protocols for declaring war. Perhaps mediation. Mediation is rejected, Kreshtar said. The humans have made their choice. They will learn the price. As the Valix departed, other species rushed to the human delegation. The Talari ambassador grabbed Chen's arm. What have you done, Commander? Please. There is still time to reconsider. Call them back. Accept their terms. 60% is better than extinction. Chen gently removed the Talari's hand. Thank you for your concern. We have made our decision. A dozen other ambassadors crowded around, all speaking at once, all offering advice, all begging humanity to reconsider, none offering to actually help. Chen raised her voice. Honored council members, I appreciate your concern. I ask only one thing. Watch what happens next. Learn from it. She left the chamber with her delegation, leaving confused and frightened ambassadors behind. In the human delegation's secure communication room, Chen activated the emergency channel to Earth. Fleet Admiral Chen's image appeared immediately. It's done, Commander Chen said simply. Confirmed, the Admiral replied. Valix long-range sensors show their main fleet mobilizing. 4,000 warships headed to our border. Estimated arrival at New Harmony in 6 days. Commander Chen smiled. Oh, we're ready. Operation Revelation is complete. Every ship is in position. Every weapon is armed. Every soldier knows their role. The Admiral's expression grew fierce. They think 4,000 ships will intimidate us. They're about to get the shock of their lives. What the Valix didn't know was what humanity had actually been doing during those 30 days. The evacuation ships the Valix intelligence had detected weren't carrying refugees. They were military transports delivering weapons, troops, and equipment to every human colony world. The civilian space stations humanity had built weren't just manufacturing centers. They were military-industrial complexes designed from the beginning to switch to war production at a moment's notice. Humanity had learned a harsh lesson from their own history. Never again would they be caught unprepared. Never again would they be victims. After joining the Galactic Council and seeing how the older species operated, humanity's government had made a decision. They would play the role of peaceful newcomers. They would appear weak. They would build their true military strength in secret. For 200 years, every civilian ship design had a military variant hidden in the blueprints. Every mining operation in remote asteroids doubled as a covert shipyard. Every peaceful colony had underground military bunkers. Humanity's real fleet wasn't the few hundred ships they showed the galaxy. It was the tens of thousands they had built in the dark spaces between stars. On New Harmony, Admiral Kenji Tanaka stood on the bridge of the USEF, United Human Space Forces. Indomitable, a battleship-class vessel that the Galactic Council had no idea existed. Around him, holographic displays showed the positions of his fleet. 40,000 ships. That was what humanity had assembled at New Harmony alone, not the primitive vessels the galaxy had seen. These were warships designed with 2 centuries of studying galactic technology and improving upon it. They incorporated lessons from human history, lessons learned in blood across 10,000 years of warfare. Admiral, Valek's fleet detected entering sensor range, his tactical officer reported. Confirmed count, 4,000 ships. They're maintaining standard Valek's battle formation. Tanaka studied the display. The Valek's fleet approached in a magnificent formation, a show of force meant to intimidate. Their ships were individually superior to humanity's vessels in terms of technology. Their weapons could output more energy. Their shields were stronger. By every traditional metric, they should win. But they were about to learn that humans didn't fight traditional battles. All ships, Tanaka ordered. Activate full sensor arrays. Let them see us. Let them count us. And then let them understand their mistake. 40,000 ships powered up their active sensors simultaneously. On the Valek's flagship, the Supreme Commander Ralph Kor watched his sensor displays with confusion that rapidly turned to disbelief. Impossible, he whispered. Our intelligence reported fewer than 1,000 human military vessels total. Sir, his sensor officer's voice trembled. I'm counting 40,000 human ships, all military class, all armed, all powered, and ready for combat. Ralph Kor's scaled hands gripped his command chair. It's a trick. They're using sensor ghosts, decoys. No, sir. These are real ships. I'm reading power signatures, heat signatures, gravitational displacement. They're all real. For the first time in his 300 years of life, Ralph Kor felt something unfamiliar. Fear, not for himself, but for his fleet. 4,000 ships against 40,000. The numbers were devastating. But Valek's pride ran deep. All ships, he commanded. Battle formation sovereign. We will show these humans that quality defeats quantity. Advance. On the Indomitable, Tanaka watched the Valek's fleet begin their attack run. They're actually going to engage, he said with something like admiration. I'll give them credit for courage. Orders, sir? His tactical officer asked. All ships, Tanaka said calmly. Pattern Delta 7. Target their command ships first. Drone swarms launch on my mark. Kinetic batteries prepare saturation fire. Show them what happens when you threaten humanity. The Battle of New Harmony began. The Valeks expected a traditional engagement. Ships would maneuver for position. Energy weapons would be exchanged at range. Shields would be tested. Eventually, one side would gain advantage through superior technology or tactics. This was how galactic warfare had been conducted for thousands of years. Humanity fought differently. The first wave wasn't manned ships, it was drones. Thousands upon thousands of automated attack craft, each one carrying kinetic weapons and guided by artificial intelligence that could outthink any living pilot. The Valek's point defense systems opened fire, destroying hundreds of drones. But for every one destroyed, 3 more took its place. What is this? Ralph Kor watched his screens in confusion. They're wasting resources on unmanned craft. 22. What is this? Ralph Kor watched his screens. End quote. End quote. But the drones weren't wasted. They were reconnaissance. Every drone that got destroyed first transmitted data back to the human fleet. Exact locations of Valek's point defense systems. Exact firing patterns. Exact response times. Within minutes, humanity's combat computers had mapped every weakness in the Valix formation. Then the real attack began. Human ships didn't close to traditional combat range. They stayed at extreme distance and fired kinetic weapons, not energy beams that shields could dissipate. Solid chunks of metal accelerated to a significant fraction of light speed. Thousands of projectiles fired in patterns calculated by computers. Valix shields could stop energy weapons. They were nearly useless against kinetic impacts. All ships evasive, Ralthcor ordered. But the Valix fleet, in their tight formation, couldn't maneuver quickly enough. The kinetic barrage struck like the hammer of a god. Ships that had withstood energy weapon fire for hours in previous battles were punctured and destroyed in seconds. Return fire, Ralthcor commanded. The Valix fleet unleashed their powerful energy weapons. Beams that could crack planets reached out toward the human ships. But humanity's fleet scattered into smaller groups, each one moving independently. The coordination was perfect, impossible for living crews to achieve. The Valix didn't know that every human ship was networked together by communication AI, turning 40,000 individual vessels into one vast distributed intelligence. Where Valix beams struck, human ships were indeed destroyed. But for every human vessel lost, 2 Valix ships were shattered by kinetic barrages. "Sir, we've lost 400 ships," the Valix tactical officer reported. Human losses estimated at 600. The math was brutal. The Valix could win exchange rates, but not the overall battle. They were outnumbered 10-1. Ralthcor made the hardest decision of his military career. The Valix fleet turned and ran. Humanity's ships pursued, hammering the fleeing vessels with long-range kinetic fire. By the time the Valix fleet jumped to faster-than-light speeds, they had lost 1,200 ships, nearly 30% of their force. Humanity had lost 1,500 ships. 40,000 minus 1,500 left plenty for the next engagement. On the Indomitable, Tanaka reviewed the battle reports. Acceptable losses. All ships begin recovery operations. Collect our dead, honor their sacrifice, and prepare for the next phase. The news of the battle reached the Galactic Council within hours. The species gathered in emergency session, watching the battle footage in stunned silence. "Impossible," the Talarian ambassador whispered. "Humanity defeated a Valix fleet?" "Not defeated," the theoretical eldest corrected. "Crushed. The loss ratios are in humanity's favor, even without the numerical advantage." "Where did they get those ships?" another species demanded. Commander Chen, attending the emergency session, provided the answer. "We built them. While you all assumed we were primitive and weak, we were preparing. We learned from our own history. Never be caught defenseless. Never assume others will protect you. Protect yourself." "But 40,000 ships?" The Talari couldn't comprehend it. "That requires industrial capacity beyond what you've shown." 40,000? "But because we didn't show you everything," Chen said simply. "We showed you what we wanted you to see." The theoretical eldest studied Chen with its ancient eyes. "What happens now?" "Commander." Chen's expression hardened. "Now? Now the Valix learn what war actually means. They wanted to erase our civilization. We're going to show them what erasure looks like." Across the galaxy, humanity's true fleet began to move. Not 40,000 ships, 120,000 vessels, all converging on Valix space. The war had just begun, and humanity intended to finish it in a way the galaxy would never forget. The Valix homeworld of Valix Prime had stood unconquered for 8,000 years. Its cities stretched across continents, monuments to the Empire's glory. The Imperial Palace dominated the capital city, a structure so massive it could be seen from orbit. Inside that palace, Emperor Valdron received the news of the defeat at New Harmony. The Emperor was old even by Valix standards, having ruled for 600 years. He had overseen the conquest of 15 species during his reign. He had never known defeat. The concept was foreign to him. "Explain this to me again," he said to Supreme Commander Ralthcor, who had returned in disgrace. "You had 4,000 ships, the finest warships in the galaxy, and you retreated?" Ralthcor stood before his emperor, expecting execution. "My emperor, the humans had 40,000 ships. Our intelligence was completely wrong. They have been hiding their true military capacity for 2 centuries. 40,000 ships? The Emperor repeated slowly. Built in secret. Hidden from every intelligence service in the galaxy. Hidden from us. He rose from his throne, his massive frame radiating fury. This is not just deception. This is humiliation. The humans have made fools of the Valix Empire. My Emperor, I recommend we seek negotiation. The humans have greater numbers than negotiation. The Emperor's roar echoed through the chamber. The Valix Empire does not negotiate from a position of weakness. We do not retreat. We do not surrender. Let her not retreat. Let her any peace, we do not surrender. He pointed at Ralthkor. You should have fought to the last ship. You should have died with honor, rather than return with this shame. Yes, my Emperor, Ralthkor said quietly. Emperor Valdrin paced in front of his throne. The humans think their numbers give them victory. They think we will be intimidated. They do not understand Valix's resolve. He turned to his military council. I declare a war of extermination. Not conquest, not pacification, complete and total annihilation of the human species. The military council members looked at each other with concern. A war of extermination was the highest level of Valix's military doctrine. It meant every resource, every ship, every warrior would be committed. It meant the war would not end until the enemy was extinct or the Valix were destroyed. It had been declared only 3 times in Valix history. All 3 times the enemy species no longer existed. My Emperor, one council member dared to speak. A war of extermination will require us to mobilize our entire fleet. That means leaving our other territories vulnerable. It means, I know what it means. The Emperor snapped. The humans will learn that challenging the Valix Empire results in extinction. We will erase them from the galaxy. We will destroy every human world. We will hunt down every human ship. We will ensure that in 1,000 years the only mention of humanity will be in Valix history texts, as an example of the price of defiance. He activated the empire-wide communication system. His face appeared on every screen across 400 Valix worlds. Warriors of the Valix Empire, our enemies have struck at us. The humans, those primitive creatures we offered mercy, have chosen war. They have defeated one of our fleets through numbers and cowardice. This cannot stand. I declare a war of extermination. Every ship, every warrior, every resource will be dedicated to the destruction of humanity. We will show the galaxy what happens when you challenge the Valix. We will remind all species why they fear our empire. To war. Across the Valix Empire, the military machine activated. Shipyards that had been building civilian vessels switched to warship production. Garrison fleets abandoned their posts and converged on rally points. Warriors who had retired to peaceful lives took up arms again. Within weeks, the Valix assembled the greatest military force they had ever fielded, 50,000 warships. The entire strength of the Empire gathered in one armada. The Galactic Council watched this mobilization with growing horror. Emergency sessions were called daily. Species that had remained neutral began choosing sides, though most stayed carefully silent. The Talarian ambassador led a coalition, attempting to broker peace. The coalition sent a message to Earth, begging humanity to reconsider. The response came from Fleet Admiral Chen herself. Honorable Council members, we appreciate your concern for galactic peace. However, the Valix Empire declared a war of extermination against humanity. They have stated publicly their intention to hunt down and kill every member of our species. They have given us no choice but to respond in kind. But Commander the Talari pleaded over the communication channel. You won one battle. The Valix are mobilizing everything. 50,000 ships. Even with your 40,000, the numbers favor them. Please accept mediation. Accept a negotiated peace. The galaxy cannot afford this war. Admiral Chen's expression was stone. We gave them a chance to walk away. Ambassador Kreshtar had 30 days to reconsider his ultimatum. He chose threats. Emperor Valdrin had the opportunity to accept a limited defeat. He chose extinction war. We will give them exactly what they asked for. You don't understand. Another ambassador said desperately. The Valix have never lost a total war. Their warriors are bred for combat. Their technology has been refined over millennia. Quality will defeat your quantity. You're right, Admiral Chen said. We don't understand. We don't understand how a species can fight for 8,000 years and learn so little about actual warfare. The transmission ended, leaving the council members confused and frightened. What they didn't know was that humanity's initial fleet at New Harmony wasn't their full strength. It wasn't even close. On Earth, in the command bunker beneath the Alps, Fleet Admiral Chen addressed the assembled leadership of humanity's military. Holographic displays showed ship positions across hundreds of light years. "The Valaks are gathering 50,000 ships," she said. "Our intelligence indicates they're assembling near their home system for a massive strike at our core worlds. They believe this will end the war." "What are our numbers?" asked General Okonkwo, commander of ground forces. Admiral Chen smiled. "The Valaks know about the 40,000 ships at New Harmony. They don't know about the 80,000 we've been building in secret shipyards over the past month. They don't know that every single one of our colony worlds has been building ships at maximum capacity since the council meeting." She activated a display showing humanity's true fleet strength. The numbers made even the experienced officers pause. 120,000 ships, Admiral Chen said. Full military class. Armed with the latest weapons. Crewed by personnel who have trained for this moment for decades. The Valaks think they're bringing overwhelming force. They're about to learn what overwhelming actually means. "What's our objective?" another officer asked. "Total victory," Admiral Chen said simply. "The Valaks declared a war of extermination. We're going to show them they should have chosen negotiation. We will break their fleet. We will break their empire. And we will ensure that no species ever threatens humanity again." The Valaks fleet assembled near Valaks Prime's moon. It was a sight to inspire all. 50,000 warships, each one a masterpiece of military engineering. The fleet stretched across hundreds of thousands of kilometers. A wall of metal and firepower that had never been defeated. Emperor Valthrone himself came to the flagship, the Eternal Dominion, to address his warriors. "My soldiers, you are about to participate in the greatest military campaign in Valak's history. We will strike at the human homeworld itself. We will burn it to ash. We will ensure that humanity's defiance ends in their extinction. This is our destiny. This is our right as the superior species." The warriors roared their approval. They believed in their emperor. They believed in their strength. They believed they could not lose. Supreme Commander Ralthkor, despite his earlier disgrace, was given command of one battle group. He alone had faced the humans and survived. He alone had concerns about what was coming. "My emperor," he said privately to Valthrone, "the humans have shown tactical sophistication beyond their apparent age as a spacefaring species. I recommend caution." "Jester, caution is for the weak," the emperor replied. "We have assembled the full might of the Valaks Empire. Let the humans bring every ship they possess. We will crush them through superior power and superior will." The Valaks fleet entered faster than light travel, heading toward human space. Their target Sol system, Earth itself. Humanity's response was already in motion. The Valaks fleet dropped out of FTL at the edge of the Sol system, expecting to find a desperate defense. Instead, they found nothing. The system appeared empty. "Where are they?" Emperor Valthrone demanded. "Scan the entire system." "My emperor," the sensor officer reported. "I'm detecting I don't understand these readings." "Explain." "There are ships, my emperor, everywhere. They're using some kind of stealth technology. They were invisible until they powered up their weapon systems. I'm counting, emperor. I'm counting 120,000 human ships." The emperor's face went through several expressions. Disbelief, confusion, then rage. "Impossible." "Our intelligence," said Belegur. "Our intelligence was wrong, my emperor," Ralthkor said quietly. "The humans have been playing us from the beginning. What the Valaks didn't know was that humanity had chosen the battlefield carefully. The Sol system's asteroid belt had been converted into a massive weapons platform over the past month. Every asteroid large enough to be useful now contained missile launchers, kinetic accelerators, and point defense systems. The Valaks fleet hadn't just entered a system. They had entered a trap. Fleet Admiral Tanaka, commanding the human defense fleet from the USF Indomitable, watched the Valaks fleet spread out in their traditional formation. "They still don't understand," he said. "They still think this is a conventional battle." "Sir Valak's fleet is beginning their attack approach," his tactical officer reported. "All ships," Tanaka ordered. "Execute Battle Plan Terra. Show them what home field advantage means. The Battle of Sol. later called the Battle of Valix Prime's moon for historical irony, began. Humanity didn't fight fairly. They had learned long ago that fair fights were for sports, not survival. The asteroid belt weapons fired first, catching the Valix fleet in a crossfire they couldn't have anticipated. Thousands of kinetic projectiles and missiles emerged from what the Valix had thought was empty space. Valix ships scattered breaking formation. Their return fire destroyed dozens of weapon platforms. But for everyone destroyed, two more opened fire. The asteroids were automated, controlled by combat AI that didn't fear death because it couldn't die. Then, the human fleet attacked from 3 directions simultaneously. 120,000 ships, coordinated by networked intelligence, moving in patterns no biological crew could execute. They didn't try to match Valix formations. They swarmed like insects, each ship a small part of a vast predatory intelligence. Emperor Valthrone watched his tactical displays with growing horror. They're everywhere. How can they coordinate this many ships? The answer was simple: computers. While biological crews needed hierarchy and command structures, humanity's ships were networked. Every sensor reading from every ship was shared instantly. Every tactical decision was made with complete information. It was like fighting a single organism with 120,000 bodies. The Valix fought bravely. Their warriors were skilled. Their weapons were powerful. But they were fighting the wrong kind of war. They were fighting for honor and glory. Humanity was fighting for survival, and survival didn't care about honor. Kinetic weapons punched through Valix shields. Missile swarms overwhelmed point defenses. Automated drones kamikazed into Valix command ships, not caring about the loss because there was no pilot to die. Where the Valix would have pulled back to avoid losing rare trained warriors, humanity pressed forward, because their ships could be replaced faster than Valix ships could be destroyed. "My Emperor, we must retreat," Ralthkor urged. "We're losing ships at an unsustainable rate." The Emperor gripped his command chair, watching his fleet die. 20,000 ships lost, then 30,000. The battle had been going for only 6 hours. "No," he said. "We fight to the last ship. We are Valix. We do not retreat. Then we die," Ralthkor said quietly. A kinetic projectile struck the Eternal Dominion's shields, then another, then a dozen. The shields collapsed. The Emperor's flagship shuddered under impacts. "My Emperor," someone screamed. "Hull, breach on decks, 4 through 9. The last thing Emperor Valthrone saw was a human missile, painted with an emblem showing Earth, and surrounded by text in multiple human languages. You wanted war. You got it. The flagship exploded. Without their Emperor, without their command structure, the Valix fleet began to collapse. Ship captains made independent decisions to retreat. Some fought to the death. Others surrendered. A concept that Valix warriors had never considered before this moment. When the battle ended, the Valix fleet had been reduced from 50,000 ships to less than 8,000. Humanity had lost 48,000 ships. By traditional metrics, the Valix had won the exchange rate. By actual military objectives, they had been destroyed. The surviving Valix ships fled in disorder, scattering across multiple jump vectors. Humanity's ships pursued, hunting down the survivors systematically. Admiral Tanaka reviewed the battle reports. "Acceptable losses. Begin recovery operations. And prepare the fleet for Phase 2. "What's Phase 2, sir?" his tactical officer asked. Tanaka's expression was grim. The Valix declared a war of extermination. They wanted to erase humanity. "We're going to show them what actual erasure looks like. We're taking the war to every Valix world. We're going to dismantle their empire, piece by piece." The Galactic Council received the news in stunned silence. Humanity had destroyed the greatest Valix fleet ever assembled. The species that had ruled their sector for 8,000 years had been broken in a single battle. But that was just the beginning. The real devastation was about to begin. The Valix Empire was in chaos. Emperor Valthrone was dead. The fleet was scattered. And humanity's forces were advancing into Valix territory with methodical precision. On Valix Prime, the Imperial Council gathered in emergency session. Without an emperor, the council members fought among themselves for control. Some argued for immediate surrender. Others demanded continued resistance. A few suggested evacuating the homeworld entirely. Supreme Commander Ralph Kor, one of the few senior military leaders to survive the Battle of Saul, addressed the council. Honored members, we must face reality. Humanity has destroyed our fleet. Our intelligence was completely wrong about their capabilities. Every assumption we made was incorrect. Then we rebuild, one council member shouted. We mobilize our reserves. We call upon every Valix warrior. We have no reserves, Ralph Kor said quietly. That was our entire fleet, every ship we had, and humanity destroyed it in one battle. They still have 70,000 operational vessels. We have perhaps 4,000 scattered across our territory. The council chamber fell silent as the full scope of the disaster became clear. What do you recommend? The acting council leader asked. Surrender, Ralph Kor said. Immediately, unconditionally, before humanity's fleet arrives here. Perhaps we can negotiate terms. Preserve our civilization. The chamber's communication system activated, interrupting him. A human face appeared on the main screen. It was Fleet Admiral Chen. Members of the Valix Imperial Council, she said. This is Fleet Admiral Chen, of the United Human Space Forces. I am transmitting from the flagship, Os Indomitable, currently in orbit around your colony world of Draxnor. My fleet has secured this system. The local Valix military has surrendered. The council members looked at each other in shock. Draxnor was a major colony world, heavily defended. How had it fallen so quickly? You are probably wondering about the speed of our advance. Admiral Chen continued as if reading their thoughts. Let me clarify the situation. Humanity currently has 70,000 warships divided into 7 battle groups. Each battle group is systematically securing Valix territory. You have 3 options. 1. Surrender immediately. 2. Continue fighting, and watch us dismantle your empire world by world. 3. Do nothing, and let us make the choice for you. We wish to negotiate. The council leader called out. We accept that we have lost. We are willing to discuss terms. I'm not here to negotiate, Admiral Chen said. I'm here to inform you of what happens next. Your emperor declared a war of extermination against humanity. Do you know what that means to us? It means you intended to hunt down and kill every human being in existence. Every man, woman, and child. You wanted us extinct. That was the emperor's decision. Another council member shouted. Many of us disagreed. We can negotiate a peace. Peace? Admiral Chen's expression hardened. You threaten genocide. You don't get peace. You get consequences. The transmission ended. Across Valix space, humanity's 7 battle groups began their systematic advance. But they weren't conquering in the traditional sense. They were dismantling. When human forces arrived at a Valix colony world, they didn't invade the planet. They didn't occupy cities. They didn't harm civilians. Instead, they destroyed every military installation, every shipyard, every weapons factory, and every orbital defense platform. Then they moved to the next world. On the colony world of Trachis, the Valix garrison commander watched the human fleet arrive with dread. He had 20 ships to defend the system. The humans brought 10,000. He received a communication from the human fleet commander. Commander, we have no desire to kill your personnel. Evacuate all military installations. You have 1 hour. And if I refuse? The Valix commander asked, knowing the answer. Then you die defending structures we're going to destroy anyway. Your choice is not whether your military base survives. Your choice is whether you survive to see tomorrow. The Valix commander looked at his crew. Young warriors who believed in the Empire, who had trained their entire lives for combat, who were ready to die with honor. Evacuate the base, he ordered. All personnel to the surface, away from military structures. His second-in-command was shocked. Sir, we should fight. For what? The commander asked tiredly. The Empire is already gone. We lost the moment we threatened humanity. Now we're just deciding how many more have to die before we accept it. Across Valix space, similar scenes played out. Some garrisons chose to fight and were obliterated. Most chose to evacuate, watching from safe distance as humanity's weapons reduced their proud military bases to rubble. The Galactic Council called emergency session after emergency session. Species watched in horror as humanity demonstrated industrial warfare on a scale never before witnessed. "They're destroying everything," the Telari ambassador said, watching footage of a Valix shipyard being systematically torn apart. That shipyard took 300 years to build. Humanity destroyed it in 4 hours. Commander Sarah Chen, present at the council session, responded calmly. "It took 300 years to build with Valix methods. We can build equivalent shipyards in 3 weeks. The galaxy is about to learn that industrial capacity matters more than age." "But why destroy everything?" another ambassador asked. "Because we don't want Valix worlds," Chen explained. "We want to ensure they can never threaten us again. Every shipyard we destroy is one that can't build warships. Every weapons factory we eliminate is one that can't arm future fleets. We're not conquerors. We're removing threats." Rune and Arm, the theoretical eldest, studied Chen with its ancient eyes. "You are destroying the infrastructure of an 8,000-year-old civilization." "Yes," Chen said simply. "They wanted to destroy an 8 billion-person civilization. We're being remarkably restrained by comparison. Their people live, their cities stand. We're only taking their ability to wage war. And when you're finished?" the eldest asked. "Then we go home and rebuild our own losses. We have no interest in ruling Valix space." On Valix Prime, the Imperial Council watched their empire collapse. Reports came in constantly. Another shipyard Time, another military base eliminated, another fleet garrison forced to surrender. Humanity's advance was methodical and unstoppable. "We must do something," one council member insisted. "We cannot simply accept this humiliation." Ralph Kor had been reviewing tactical data. "I recommend we consolidate all remaining forces here, at Valix Prime. Make our final stand defending our homeworld. Perhaps we can inflict enough casualties to force humanity to negotiate." The council agreed. It was a desperate plan, but desperation was all they had left. Over the next month, every surviving Valix warship was recalled to the homeworld. Orbital defenses were reinforced. Ground-based weapons platforms were activated. Valix Prime had never been attacked in 8,000 years. Its defenses were legendary. Perhaps the council hoped they could turn the tide. They assembled 3,000 ships. It was all that remained of their once mighty fleet. Then humanity's fleet arrived. Admiral Kenji Tanaka commanded the human force assigned to Valix Prime. He brought 60,000 ships. When his censor officer reported the Valix defensive strength, he almost felt bad for them. 3,000 ships defending their homeworld, Tanaka said. "They're brave. I'll give them that." "Orders, sir?" his tactical officer asked. "Standard protocol. Offer them the chance to evacuate military installations. 1 hour. After that, we proceed." The message was transmitted to Valix Prime. In the Imperial Council chamber, the council members looked at each other. "They give us 1 hour to abandon our homeworld's defenses," the council leader said. "The arrogance is astounding." Ralph Kor studied the sensor data showing the human fleet. 60,000 ships. He had fought them twice now. He knew what was coming. "It's not arrogance," he said quietly. "It's mercy. They're giving us the chance to live. I recommend we take it." "Abandon our homeworld without a fight?" A council member was outraged. "Never. We are Valix. We fight to the last." "Then you'll die to the last," Rathkor said, "and achieve nothing. The Empire is already gone. This isn't about victory anymore. It's about survival." The council voted. 10 members voted to evacuate. 15 voted to fight. It was decided. The hour passed. Valix Prime's defenses remained active. The orbital platforms armed their weapons. The 3,000 warships took defensive positions. Humanity's fleet attacked. The battle lasted 3 hours. It was less of a battle and more of an execution. Human ships, coordinated by their network intelligence, simply overwhelmed every defense. They didn't take risks. They didn't seek glory. They identified targets and destroyed them with cold efficiency. Valix orbital platforms that had protected the homeworld for millennia were reduced to debris. Warships that represented centuries of engineering were torn apart by kinetic barrages. The Valix fought with desperate courage. But courage couldn't overcome 20-to-1 odds. When it ended, Valix Prime's orbital space was clear of military assets. 3,000 ships destroyed. Orbital defenses eliminated. The planet itself was untouched. The cities stood. The civilians lived. But the military power of the Valix Empire was completely erased. Supreme Commander Rathkor had evacuated his command ship before the battle, one of the few who accepted the inevitable. He watched from the surface as the last Valix warship exploded in orbit. 8,000 years of military supremacy ended in 3 hours. Admiral Tanaka transmitted to Valix Prime. Imperial Council, your military forces have been neutralized. Your orbital defenses are destroyed. You have no fleet. You have no weapons factories. You have no shipyards. The Valix Empire's ability to wage war no longer exists. In the council chamber, the surviving members sat in stunned silence. Everything they had built, everything they had conquered, everything they had taken pride in for 8,000 years was gone. "What do you want from us?" the council leader asked, his voice defeated. "To ensure this never happens again," Tanaka replied. "Stand by for a formal communication from Earth." Across the galaxy, every species watched what had happened. The mighty Valix Empire, the civilization that had conquered 23 species, that had never been defeated in 8,000 years, had been systematically dismantled in less than 2 months. The Galactic Council convened, but no one knew what to say. The Talari ambassador looked at Commander Chen with something resembling fear. "What will you do now?" the Talari asked quietly. "Now we dictate terms," Chen said. "The Valix wanted to erase us. We're going to ensure they never have the capacity to threaten anyone again." "You've already destroyed their military," another ambassador said. "What more can you take from them?" Chen's expression was cold. "Everything that made them an empire. When we're done, the Valix will exist, but the Valix Empire won't. They'll remember what they lost. They'll remember why they lost it. And they'll teach their children to never ever threaten humanity again." The theoretical eldest spoke. "What you describe sounds like cultural erasure." "No," Chen corrected. "Cultural erasure would be destroying their history, their language, their identity. We're doing something different. We're making their empire itself into history. Future Valix will know their ancestors once ruled 400 worlds. They'll know their ancestors declared a war of extermination on humanity, and they'll know how badly that turned out for them." She stood to address the full council. "Let this be a lesson to every species here. Humanity came to this galaxy in peace. We were laughed at. We were patronized. We were threatened with genocide. We gave the Valix every chance to back down. They chose war. This is what happens when you choose war with humanity." The council members sat in silence. Every species was making calculations, re-evaluating their understanding of galactic power structures. The age of Valix supremacy was over. The age of humanity had begun. On Valix Prime, Rathkor stood in the ruins of an orbital defense platform that had crashed to the surface. Around him, young Valix warriors wept for their destroyed empire. He felt nothing but exhaustion. "Commander?" one young warrior asked. Rathkor looked up at the sky, where human ships still orbited. "Now, we learn to live in the galaxy that humanity is creating, and we teach our children to be smarter than we were." The reckoning had come to the Valix Empire, and it had been absolute. 1 month after the fall of Valix Prime, the Galactic Council gathered for what many species considered the most important session in 12,000 years of galactic history. Every ambassador was present. Every species sent observers. The chamber was packed with representatives wanting to witness humanity's terms for the defeated Valix Empire. Commander Sarah Chen walked to the speaking platform. Behind her stood Fleet Admiral Chen and a delegation of human military and civilian leaders. Across from them sat what remained of the Valix Imperial Council, looking diminished and defeated. The theoretical eldest called the session to order. "The council recognizes Commander Sarah Chen of humanity. The floor is yours." Chen placed a data pad on the platform, but didn't look at it. She had memorized every word she was about to say. "Honored council members, 42 days ago, the Valix Empire declared a war of extermination against humanity. Their stated goal was to hunt down and kill every human being in existence, to erase our species from the galaxy." She paused, letting the words settle. "They failed. Now humanity will present our terms for peace." The Valix Council leader stood. "We accept full responsibility for the war. We are prepared to pay reasonable reparations and acknowledge our defeat. We ask only that we are praised. Ask only. Sit down, Chen said quietly. The Valak's council leader, shocked by the dismissal, slowly sat. You don't get to ask for anything. You threatened genocide. There is no reasonable response to that. There is only the response you've earned. She activated the holographic display, showing a map of Valak's space. The Valak's Empire currently claims 400 star systems. As of today, the Valak's Empire claims 0 star systems. Shocked murmurs filled the chamber. The Valak's council members stood in protest. You cannot do this, one shouted. Those worlds have been Valak's territory for thousands of years. 25. And now they're not, Chen said calmly. Every Valak's colony world is granted immediate independence. They are free to govern themselves, join the Galactic Council, form alliances, or remain independent. The Valak's homeworld has no authority over them. But that's our entire civilization, another council member protested. No, Chen corrected. That's your empire. Your civilization still exists. Your people still live. Your culture still remains. But your empire is dissolved. This is not negotiable. The theoretical eldest spoke carefully. Commander Chen, what you propose is the complete dismantlement of an 8,000-year-old political structure. What I propose is justice, Chen replied. The Valak's empire was built on conquest. 23 species were subjugated, their independence stolen. Those that resisted were destroyed. The empire maintained control through threat of force. That ends today. She changed the holographic display. Second term. All Valak's military technology is to be destroyed. Warship schematics, weapons designs, tactical databases, all of it will be purged from Valak's records. That's absurd. Rathkor stood. You're crippling our ability to defend ourselves. Yes, Chen said simply. For the next 100 years, Valak's Prime will be permitted defensive satellites only. No warships. No weapons of planetary destruction. No military fleet. Your defense will be guaranteed by a united human oversight station that will remain in your system. You're occupying our homeworld. Rathkor couldn't believe what he was hearing. We're ensuring you don't rebuild your military and try this again in 50 years. After 100 years, if the Valaks have demonstrated peaceful behavior, the restrictions will be re-evaluated. The chamber erupted in argument. Multiple species tried to speak at once. The theoretical eldest called for order, but it took several minutes to restore calm. The Talari ambassador spoke up. Commander Chen, these terms are extraordinarily harsh. Yes, the Valaks started the war, but complete disarmament, political dissolution, for 100 years. This is beyond punishment. This is exactly what they planned for us, Chen finished. Except we're letting them live. We're letting their culture survive. We're letting their children grow up. The Valaks would have given humanity none of these mercies. She pulled up another display. Third term, war reparations. The Valaks Empire will pay humanity for the cost of the war. We lost 48,000 ships at the Battle of Sol. We lost 15,000 at New Harmony. We lost forces at every engagement. The total comes to 112,000 ships destroyed. Each one had crew. Each one represented resources and construction time. The Valak's council leader's face went pale. We cannot possibly afford to replace 112,000 human ships. You're not replacing ships, Chen said. You're paying for them. The calculated value, based on construction costs and resources, comes to a sum that will take your economy approximately 1,000 years to repay if you maintain a consistent payment schedule. 1,000 years? Multiple species gasped. Our children's children's children will be paying this debt. A Valak's council member shouted. Yes, Chen said coldly. Just as our children's children's children would have never existed if you had succeeded in your genocide. Consider yourselves fortunate. We're accepting payment instead of claiming Valak's Prime itself as compensation. She let that sink in. The alternative to crushing reparations was loss of their homeworld. The Valak's council members looked sick. Fourth term, and this is the most important, Chen said. The chamber exploded in outrage. Multiple species stood and shouted. The theoretical eldest had to use the chamber's acoustic dampeners to quiet everyone. That is cultural genocide, the Valak's council leader roared. You cannot rewrite our history. We're not rewriting history, Chen said. We're ensuring it's taught correctly. Future generations of Valaks will learn the complete truth about their empire. They will learn about the 23 species you conquered. They will learn about the cultures you destroyed. They will learn about the war of extermination you declared on humanity and why you lost. She pulled up educational curriculum on the display. Valak's children will be taught that their ancestors made a terrible mistake. They challenged a species they didn't understand and paid a devastating price. They will learn that empires built on conquest eventually fall. They will learn that threatening genocide brings consequences. You're making us teach our children to be ashamed of our history, another council member protested. No, Chen corrected. We're making you teach the truth. Your empire conquered and subjugated. Your empire threatened extinction of another species. These are facts. If teaching facts makes Valak's children ashamed, perhaps that shame is deserved. She turned to address the full council. Let me be absolutely clear about what humanity is doing here. We are not committing genocide. Every Valak citizen lives. We are not destroying their culture. Their language, art, music, literature, all remain. We are not even occupying their worlds. What we are doing is ensuring that the Valak's empire, as a political and military entity, ceases to exist. The display changed to show a timeline. Within 2 generations, taught the truth about their history, Valak's children will view their empire as a cautionary tale. They will understand that their ancestors' greatest mistake was choosing conquest over cooperation. They will learn that threatening humanity was an error that cost them everything they had built over 8,000 years. Fleet Admiral Chen stepped forward. In practical terms, here is what happens. All former Valak's colony worlds are now independent. They may keep their Valak's populations or not, as they choose. Some of the species that were conquered by the Valaks are petitioning to reclaim their ancestral worlds. Humanity will support these claims. She pulled up a list. The Krath people, conquered 4,000 years ago, want their 3 homeworlds returned. The Salenti, integrated into the Empire 2,000 years ago, want autonomy. 12 other species have similar claims. All will be granted. Rothkor stood slowly. What you're describing is the complete erasure of the Valak's empire from the galaxy. Yes, both Chen said simultaneously. Commander Chen continued. In 50 years, galactic historians will search for records of the Valak's empire. They will find footnotes. They will find warnings. They will find a civilization that made the mistake of threatening humanity and paid the ultimate price. Not extinction. Something arguably worse. Irrelevance. The theoretical eldest spoke gravely. Commander Chen, what you propose is unprecedented. No species in recorded galactic history has imposed such comprehensive terms on a defeated enemy. Perhaps that's why wars keep happening, Chen replied. The Valaks conquered 23 species. How many of those were released? How many were given their independence back? None. The Valaks integrated them, erased their political identities, and moved on. We're doing the reverse. We're undoing 8,000 years of conquest. She turned back to the Valak's council. These terms are final. They are not negotiable. You have 2 choices. Accept them or reject them, and face the alternative. What alternative? The council leader asked. Fleet Admiral Chen answered. Humanity occupies Valak's Prime. We assume direct control of your government. We implement these same changes by force. The results are identical, but you lose even the dignity of accepting them yourselves. The Valak's council huddled together, speaking in hushed tones. After 10 minutes, the council leader stood. We have a question, he said. If we accept these terms, what happens to the Valak's people? You take our empire, our military, our independence for a century. What are we left with? Commander Chen's expression softened slightly. You're left with your lives, your families, your culture, your art and music and stories. You're left with the opportunity to build something better than an empire. You're left with the chance to teach your children that cooperation brings prosperity and conquest brings ruin. Then, rolling that's process. She paused. The Valak's people aren't our enemy. The Valak's empire was. We're removing the empire. The people can choose what comes next. Avran destruction. Avran destruction. Avrin destruction. I think that I read destruction. The council leader looked at his fellow members. They all looked defeated, exhausted, and broken. We accept your terms. The Galactic Council chamber was silent. Every species processed what had just happened. An 8,000-year-old empire had been dissolved in a single conversation. Over the next year, humanity implemented the terms methodically. Every former Valix colony was granted independence. Some chose to remain allied with Valix Prime. Most chose to go their own way. 3 species that had been conquered millennia ago reclaimed their ancestral systems and wept with joy. Valix military technology was systematically destroyed. Weapons factories were dismantled. Shipyards were converted to civilian use. The proud Valix warships that remained were scrapped for materials. A human oversight station was established in orbit around Valix Prime. Not an occupation force, just observers ensuring compliance. The Valix hated seeing it in their sky, a constant reminder of their defeat. The educational reforms were implemented gradually. Human advisors worked with Valix teachers to revise history curricula. The changes were subtle but profound. Where old texts had glorified conquest, new texts questioned it. Where old lessons had praised empire, new lessons examined its costs. The war reparations began. Every year, a significant portion of Valix economic output went to humanity. It would continue for 1,000 years. Every Valix citizen knew that their children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren would be paying for the war their emperor had started. The cultural impact was immediate and devastating. Within a year, speaking proudly of the old empire became taboo. Young Valix who grew up learning the new history felt shame for what their ancestors had done. The word empire itself became associated with failure and disaster. 50 years after the war, a Valix student named Kreshnor sat in history class on Valix Prime. The teacher, a middle-aged Valix who had been a young warrior during the war, taught the lesson that all Valix children now learned. The Valix Empire lasted 8,000 years, the teacher said. It was built through conquest of other species. Our ancestors believed that strength gave them the right to rule others. They believed they were superior. They were wrong. Kreshnor raised a hand. Teacher, why did we start a war with humanity? The teacher pulled up images of the war. Because your ancestors were arrogant. They saw humans as weak newcomers. They issued an ultimatum expecting submission. The humans refused, and our ancestors declared a war of extermination. What's a war of extermination? Another student asked. It means they intended to kill every human being in existence, the teacher said quietly. Complete genocide. And the humans, faced with extinction, responded with overwhelming force. They destroyed our fleet. They dismantled our empire. They ensured we could never threaten anyone again. Were the humans evil? Kreshnor asked. The teacher considered the question carefully. No, they were defending themselves. We threatened to erase their entire species. They could have done the same to us. Instead, they let us live. They let our culture survive. They only destroyed our ability to wage war and our political empire. Given what we had threatened to do to them, their mercy was extraordinary. In the back of the class, an older student who had heard stories from their grandparent asked, "Why don't we rebuild? Why don't we become strong again?" The teacher's expression was sad. Because we tried that once. We thought we were the strongest species in the galaxy. Humanity taught us we were wrong. They taught us that industrial capacity matters more than military tradition. They taught us that cooperation is stronger than conquest. Some lessons can only be learned through defeat. We learned ours. Across Valix Prime, similar lessons were being taught. The old pride was gone. The warrior culture that had defined the Valix for millennia was being replaced with something else. Caution, humility, and understanding that the galaxy had changed. On Earth, Commander Sarah Chen, now retired, gave an interview to a galactic news service marking the 50th anniversary of the war's end. "Do you have any regrets about the terms imposed on the Valix?" the interviewer asked. Chen thought for a moment. "I regret that the war happened at all. I regret every life lost on both sides. But the terms themselves? No. The Valix Empire needed to end. It was built on conquest and maintained through fear. We didn't destroy the Valix people. We freed them from their own worst impulses. Some species call what you did cultural erasure. They're wrong, Chen said firmly. Valak's culture still exists. Their language, their art, their traditions all remain. What we erased was their empire. Future historians won't find the Valak's people gone. They'll find that the Valak's empire is gone. There's a difference. What do you think the Valak's empire's legacy will be? Chen smiled slightly. A warning. Future species will study what happened to the Valak's. They'll learn that threatening humanity brings consequences. They'll learn that empires built on conquest eventually fall. They'll learn that in the modern galaxy, cooperation is stronger than domination. In the Galactic Council chambers, the theoretical eldest prepared a historical record of the war. As the oldest species in the galaxy, the theoretical had witnessed the rise and fall of countless civilizations, but they had never witnessed anything quite like humanity's victory over the Valak's. The eldest wrote, "The Valak's empire stood for 8,000 years. It conquered 23 species. It was considered invincible. Humanity, a species that had been spacefaring for barely 6 centuries, destroyed it in 2 months. This was not a military victory alone. It was a demonstration that galactic power structures had fundamentally changed. The age of ancient empires maintaining control through military might was over. The age of industrial civilizations competing through production capacity had begun. Humanity showed the galaxy that a young, determined species with advanced industrial capability could overcome millennia of military tradition. The lesson has been learned. No species will make the Valak's empire's mistake again. 100 years after the war, the Human Oversight Station withdrew from Valak's prime orbit. The Valak's had complied with every term. They had made no attempt to rebuild their military beyond defensive forces. They had paid their reparations faithfully. They had taught their children the truth about their history. The Valak's were granted the right to build a small defensive fleet. They built 10 ships, not thousands, not hundreds. 10 ships to patrol their home system. It was all they felt they needed. On the centennial anniversary of the war's end, a delegation from Valak's Prime visited Earth. They came not to protest the terms, but to thank humanity. The delegation leader, a young Valak's who had been born after the war, spoke at the memorial for the human ships lost in the conflict. "My ancestors made a terrible mistake," she said. "They threatened to destroy humanity. In response, humanity destroyed our empire, but spared our people. They gave us the chance to become something better than conquerors. For that mercy, we are grateful. We will ensure that future generations of Valak's never forget the price of arrogance and the value of peace." In the Galactic Council, species that once patronized humanity now deferred to them. The young species that arrived in primitive ships 200 years ago was now recognized as a major galactic power, not because they sought power, but because they had demonstrated what happened when their survival was threatened. The last species that challenged humanity, the Valak's Empire, had been erased from the galaxy, not through genocide, not through occupation, but through the systematic dismantlement of everything that made them an empire. Future Valak's children would learn about their ancestors' mistake in history class. They would feel shame for the old empire. They would understand that their current peaceful existence was better than their ancestors' conquests. The erasure was complete. The Valak's empire no longer existed. The Valak's people did, but they would never again be a threat. They would never again conquer. They would never again threaten genocide. And every species in the galaxy had learned a simple lesson: never threaten humanity. The cost is too high. The price is too permanent. The consequences are too absolute. Humanity had wanted to join the galaxy in peace. They had been willing to cooperate, to trade, to share knowledge. But when forced to choose between extinction and total war, they had chosen war. And they had prosecuted it with a ruthlessness and efficiency that shocked every ancient civilization. The galaxy was at peace, but it was a peace built on a new understanding. Humanity wasn't the weak newcomer to be patronized. They were the species that erased an 8,000-year-old empire in 2 months. They were the species that turned their entire industrial capacity to war and produced ships faster than enemies could destroy them. They were the species that, when threatened with genocide, responded by ensuring their enemies would never threaten anyone again. The last species that challenged humanity was gone. Their empire was erased. Their pride was destroyed. Their military was dismantled. Their children were taught to be ashamed of what their ancestors had attempted. And in 1,000 years, when galactic historians searched for information about the great Valix Empire, they would find only footnotes, warnings, cautionary tales. They would find the answer to a question every species now asked themselves. What happened to the last species that challenged humanity? 1. The answer was simple, final, and absolute. They were erased from the galaxy entirely.